This video is optimized for 16:10 displays. Are rectangles better than squares? Take a look at the world and you'll probably notice one more than the other. Your body is a rectangle. So is a bed inside your rectangular bedroom, which you entered through a rectangular door. I think most will agree that a rectangle feels like the more efficient workstation. Maybe there is more in a rectangular frame that explains why filming 2.39 CinemaScope feels more cinematic. There are many different aspect ratios to choose from when creating a video. In the beginning, films were often presented in 4:3 and 16:9, which were dethroned by television. The industry fought back with a wide anamorphic 2.39 aspect ratio, which is still very common today. With a newfound appreciation for IMAX, theaters once again utilized a different taller 1.43 format this time around to lure audiences away from streaming platforms. Since the majority of content is being consumed on smartphones and computers now, technology is more interconnected with filming prep than ever. It's for this reason, vertical content has emerged as well as 2x1 for optimal smartphone display. But there's just not as much prestige with the title of iPhone cinematographer, is there? Any ambitious filmmaker dreams of seeing their work on the big screen for as many moviegoers as possible. Massive formats like OpenGate have seen a resurgence because image makers and enjoyers alike desire an immersive escape from our noisy reality. This might mean filling the entire peripheral vision, corner to corner with the tallest format possible. But IMAX won't translate well to a phone in the palm of your hands. As we're increasingly conscious of the medium through which our cinematic content is being watched, the choices we storytellers choose might be in vain, which is why I pose a question: which aspect ratio is right for you? My content usually implements 2.39 because I post primarily for YouTube to be compatible with most computer monitors. However, if you were to watch my videos at a large theater, you might find the screen to be quite small depending on the dimensions of the room. While still evoking a sense of freedom, CinemaScope narrows the focus through eliminating negative space. This is also why I employ shallow depth of field. I want to direct attention towards what is important in that moment. It's preferable to a standard crop due to the abundant negative space that can sometimes make a composition feel like an unfocused vlog. But at a bigger venue, a taller frame could make for a more immersive experience. Similar to 2.39, 4:3 also crops the image on the left and right side. These two aspect ratios are most interesting to me as their psychological effects are different. 4:3 or 1.33 is tighter, which means less information on the sides. This commands your attention to the center of the frame, leaving no room for your eyes to wander. Dramas are popular in this format as the entire face becomes a canvas filling the entire screen. Many of us also associate with TV and nostalgic cinema, though I think it makes for an arguably awkward experience at the modern theater. Alternatively, this can also have a claustrophobic effect as you aren't able to see more of the outer edges. You can imagine how square format could complement horror themes, as lack of information during a perceived threat is what induces anxiety. Meanwhile, 2.39 doesn't feel as intimidating as nothing can sneak up on you out of the spacious frame. 1.43 resolutions have this immersive height as well, but also the width to provide more breathing room. This is why directors like Nolan praise IMAX. It allows them tremendously epic scale, which, to be frank, most content creators won't be able to take advantage of. You can opt to use oppressively towering height to make subjects feel small, but I don't think the uncontrolled negative space is a blessing for blocking, other than immersion. Nolan also utilizes 2.2 for CinemaScope, which I think is an intriguing modern alternative. I love this aesthetic because it's closer to how we perceive the world while still having a letterbox effect. I'd rather see wider than taller, as our lives generally don't have as many relevant details above and below. But apart from spacious skies and dinosaurs, I don't see many films utilizing the extra space for anything meaningful other than peripheral vision, which is why they usually crop down for Blu-ray release and streaming, but not without sacrifice. These formats have their own practical implications and technical limitations. Each aspect ratio requires different blocking, especially with regards to distance. Let's take a standard image of a subject's full head. To fill the same frame in 2.39, you'd only be able to fit the eyes. If you wanted the whole head top to bottom, you'd have to move further back, widening the edges. This creates more space for over-the-shoulder dialogue or anything involving two people, as you're forced to film at a distance or utilize wider lenses to stage your scene. Letterboxing makes gear choices more forgiving, as you aren't required to get as close for dramatic close-ups, which is sometimes restricted by a lens's minimum close focusing distance. Furthermore, the flexibility of vertical cropping permits fine adjustments and also closer boom mic placements. For tighter formats, you typically want to get closer to fill up the frame, which is why longer lenses should be considered if you want the subject to take up any substantial screen real estate. There's even more emptiness to fill in 3x2 open gate, which captures so much information that you'd usually crop in for narrative work. But I would say the imagery is truer to life, and you could also have beautiful shots with negative space by intentionally avoiding center framing. The only concern here is whether you optimize the distance for your final aspect ratio, so be sure to decide before you start shooting. All these considerations just to say we are ultimately at the mercy of web browsers and screens. YouTube doesn't allow me to neatly fit both 2.39 and 1.33 formats for multiple monitor sizes, making it impossible to effectively compare in one video. You can certainly make beautiful frames with any aspect ratio, but I ultimately gravitate towards 2.39. What I believe determines the cinematic aesthetic is the impression of a wider background while maintaining elegant proportions through balancing vertical space. Maybe there is a golden Fibonacci ratio or rule of fifths to explain this, but simply put, the space is utilized better for framing enthusiasts. Wider landscapes and vistas are more cinematic to me than towering architecture and forests. It may not have the realism of taller formats, but if you ask me, life is not inherently cinematic. That's why filmmaking is considered an art, and why you still see directors visualizing a scene through rectangles constructed with fingers. It's the intention, the focus, the elimination of the unnecessary that creates stronger narratives. Aspect ratio, color, and music are all part of the puzzle in bringing your vision to life. If you want a bit more inspiration, you can purchase one of my creative looks or music licenses on Patreon, or join the Discord for other free content. The beauty of storytelling is there's no one correct direction. It's not about the answer, it's about framing the right question. So what stories will you tell?